This coin almost ended up being tossed aside as just another quarter, but one lucky discovery transformed it into a life-changing fortune worth over $1 million. Imagine pulling out a simple Washington quarter to pay for a cup of coffee, only to find out that tiny piece of change could make you a millionaire. That's not a fairy tale. It happened. And tonight, you're about to discover the hidden truth behind the 1995 Washington quarter, a coin that has shocked collectors, baffled experts, and rewritten the rules of modern coin collecting, because tucked inside America's everyday change is a mystery, one that could be hiding in your pocket right now. How could a coin worth 25 cents soar to a staggering $1.2 million at auction? The answer lies in a secret that only the sharpest collectors have spotted. Back in 1995, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. Most were ordinary, everyday coins that jingled in pockets, dropped into vending machines, and were forgotten forever. But among them, a tiny handful emerged, different, rare, special. Coins struck with subtle errors, nearly invisible flaws, or slight variations that turned them into priceless treasures. Collectors call these the million-dollar mistakes of the mint, and here's where the story turns incredible. One coin, a simple 1995 quarter, ended up in the hands of a collector who almost overlooked it. It looked ordinary. But under the light, the truth revealed itself. The strike was sharper, the details slightly shifted, and the minting flaw became undeniable. This wasn't just another quarter. This was history frozen in metal. Dealers who saw it were stunned. They knew immediately that this wasn't just rare, it was one of a kind. And when it hit the auction block, the coin world held its breath. The gavel came down, and the price climbed higher and higher until it shattered expectations. That humble 1995 Washington quarter sold for nearly $1.2 million, but that's not the end of the story, because here's the truth no one talks about. There are more out there. That's right, this wasn't the only one struck. Experts believe a small number of these error coins escaped into circulation. They could be buried in coin rolls, stashed away in a drawer, or sitting in an old jar of pocket change. And here's the catch, almost everyone overlooks them. Listen carefully, because this is the secret that could change your life. On the 1995 quarter, certain errors include double die obverse, where Washington's profile and inscriptions appear doubled under magnification. Collectors have seen doubling in the word liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," and even along the date. These aren't printing errors. They are minting mistakes born during the striking process itself, when die shifted ever so slightly and stamped the coin with a doubled image. Most people never notice. They see a quarter. They spend it. They toss it away, but collectors who know the signs, they hold on to it. Because that doubling is the golden ticket. And here's another clue. Some 1995 quarters also show unusual strike weaknesses or off-center details, tiny imperfections that make them unique. The mint mark itself can appear misplaced or faint. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. But to the collector who recognizes it, that faint mark could mean $1 million payday. But wait, what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word spread about the $1 million sale, collectors everywhere began hunting through their change. Dealers were swarmed with questions. Auction houses received floods of submissions. Everyone wanted to know, did they have the next $1 million quarter hiding in their hands? One story tells of a retired man who spent hours going through his old jars of coins. Decades of pocket change, untouched. At first, it was nothing but ordinary quarters. But then, under a lamp's glow, he saw it, subtle doubling in the lettering. He rushed to have it graded. Weeks later, he learned the truth. His simple coin, overlooked for years, was a rare 1995 variety worth tens of thousands. Not $1 million, but enough to change his life. How many times have you handed over a quarter without even glancing at it? How many chances have slipped through your fingers? Every day, millions of people spend coins without realizing they could be holding hidden fortune. And the 1995 Washington quarter is the perfect example of why every single coin deserves a second look, because here's the truth, these rare varieties don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They blend in with the ordinary. And yet, they carry the potential to transform an average day into a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. Dealers are desperate to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper about them like legends. And those lucky few who found them, well, they'll never look at pocket change the same way again. If you want to identify the $1 million 1995 D quarter, here's what you need to do. First, check the date. Look closely at 1995 with the D mint mark just below "In God We Trust." Then, study the details. Use a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in Liberty or the motto. Examine the mint mark for faintness or misplacement. And inspect the strike itself. Any unusual weakness, off-center features, or odd textures could be the key. Avoid the common mistake of assuming a coin must look dramatically different to be valuable. Many of the most precious errors are subtle, barely noticeable at first glance. That's why most people miss them, but not you. Not anymore, because now you know the secret. Of the next time you hold a 1995 D Washington quarter in your hand, pause. Look closer. Inspect every detail. Because that ordinary piece of change could be the very coin worth over $1 million, and remember, this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth up to $1.2 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple quarter, just 25 cents, turned into a $1.3 million treasure. And the most chilling part? Millions of Americans still have no idea they could be holding one of these rare pieces in their hands right now. It all begins in 2016, in the hills of Kentucky. The U.S. Mint released a brand new quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series. This one honored the Cumberland Gap National Historical Park. At first glance, it looked ordinary. On the front, George Washington's classic profile. On the back, a rugged pioneer staring west, musket in hand, symbolizing the spirit of exploration. Tens of millions were struck, rolled out into banks, and spent in gas stations, diners, and grocery stores across the nation. But hidden among these coins, a tiny handful carried a mistake so rare, so shocking, that dealers call it one of the greatest modern coin discoveries in U.S. history. The first clue came when a collector noticed something odd. Under the date, next to Washington's portrait, was a P mint mark. That meant it was struck in Philadelphia. Normal enough. But then, under magnification, something seemed off. The lettering wasn't where it should have been. The details were sharper, deeper, as if they had been struck twice. And in some cases, the coin bore doubling so dramatic, it seemed like a ghostly second image was hiding in the metal. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these flawed 2016 Cumberland Gap quarters surfaced at auction. At first, no one believed it. Dealers whispered that it was impossible. Modern coins weren't supposed to have errors this severe. But under the bright lights of the auction floor, experts confirmed it. This was a genuine minting mistake, a doubled die so rare that perhaps only a handful existed. The bidding began modestly. A few $1,000s. Then tens of thousands. Collectors were on the edge of their seats, realizing this wasn't just a quarter, it was history itself, born from a freak accident at the mint. The price soared past $100,000. Then $500,000. Finally, the hammer came down at a jaw-dropping $1.30 million a quarter. Worth over $1 million. Imagine the shock of the person who once spent that same coin on a soda, never knowing they had let a fortune slip through their fingers. Not all of these rare errors have been found. Experts believe there are still undiscovered 2016 Cumberland quarters with the same doubled die flaws sitting quietly in circulation. They could be in a change jar, a bankroll, even hiding under the seat of your car. And this is where the story gets even stranger. Some versions of the 2016 P Cumberland quarter show a doubled die on the obverse, the front side. Look closely at the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust. If the letters look shadowed, doubled, or stretched, you could be staring at one of the rarest quarters of the modern age. Others show doubling on the reverse. The words Cumberland Gap appear thick, distorted, almost like a hidden second carving in the coin. These are the hallmarks of a $1 million mistake. Collectors were stunned when photographs of these errors spread across the internet. Dealers scrambled to track down rolls of 2016 quarters from banks in Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, anywhere the Cumberland issue was distributed. People lined up, hoping lightning might strike in their pocket change. And for a lucky few, it did. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You need to hold the coin under a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Pay attention to the word Liberty. Does it look like it has a faint double? Check the motto, In God We Trust. If the letters seem to have shadows, you could be holding the treasure. Flip the coin. On the back, focus on the words Cumberland Gap and First Doorway to the West. True errors show clear, undeniable doubling that separates them from ordinary coins. Dealers warn collectors not to confuse this with machine doubling, a common but worthless effect. True doubled dies are sharp, crisp, and unmistakable. That's the difference between a 25-cent coin and a $1 million miracle, but there's another twist. Some of these rare 2016 Cumberland quarters were found in uncirculated rolls straight from the mint, while others turned up in everyday pocket change. That means it doesn't matter if your coin looks brand new or heavily worn, the error itself is what creates the fortune. One man in the Midwest reported finding one in loose change after buying coffee. Another collector in the South claimed he spotted the doubling in a roll he picked up from his local bank. Imagine that, walking in for a $10 roll of quarters, and walking out with $1.3 million in your pocket, and the chase is still on. Even now, collectors are searching relentlessly, believing more are out there. Every time someone posts a blurry photo online asking, "Is this the rare one?" dealers rush to respond. The excitement, the adrenaline, the possibility, it's unlike anything the modern coin world has ever seen. If you find one of these quarters, condition matters. A flawless example, untouched and gleaming, can command the highest price, up to $1.3 million. But even a worn one, passed through hundreds of hands, could still fetch tens of thousands. That's the power of rarity. So tonight, when you dump out the coins from your pocket, don't look at them the same way. Look closely. Because that ordinary 2016 quarter could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Think about it, one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector's late-night search through rolls turned into life-changing fortune. And the next story could be yours. So here's how to know, once and for all, if your coin is the one. It must be the 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter. It must have a doubled die error, especially on the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," or Cumberland Gap. And it must be confirmed by an expert. If all those things align, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a treasure worth more than $1 million. Check your pockets. Check your drawers. Because this exact quarter could be sitting in your home right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it stung the coin world by being valued at nearly $1.5 million. Yes, I'm talking about the 2017 Mint Mark Frederick Douglass quarter, a piece of pocket change so ordinary, yet hiding secrets so extraordinary, that collectors are calling it one of the most shocking modern treasures ever found. At first glance, it looks just like every other quarter you've spent 1,000 times before. George Washington on the front. A bold design of Frederick Douglass seated at his writing desk on the back. Nothing unusual, nothing to catch your eye. And yet, one collector's discovery of a tiny, nearly invisible flaw turned this everyday coin into a miracle worth up to $1.4 million. The story begins in 2017, when the U.S. Mint introduced a quarter honoring Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist, writer, and visionary who fought tirelessly for freedom. It was part of the America the Beautiful series, coins that were supposed to be ordinary, mass-produced, and forgettable. Billions were struck, tossed into circulation, and spent without a second thought, but here's where fate intervened. Hidden in the rush of production, a handful of these coins came out with a mistake so rare, so unexpected, that even experienced dealers couldn't believe their eyes. Some bore dramatic die cracks, or molten metal left a scar-like mark across Douglass's portrait. Others had doubling, where his image appeared slightly doubled, as though his likeness was ghosted across the coin. And a few, the rarest of them all, carried a minting flaw so strange that collectors are still arguing over how it happened, and one of those flawed coins is the one that set the auction world on fire. A man in Pennsylvania claimed he found the coin in his pocket change after buying a cup of coffee. At first, he didn't think much of it. But something about the way the coin gleamed under the light made him hold on to it. Weeks later, a local dealer inspected it and froze. His heart raced. He realized he was holding a once-in-a-lifetime mint error. The coin went on to auction, and stunned everyone by selling for hundreds of thousands. Then, whispers spread of another example selling privately for over $1 million. And soon after, the rumor mill exploded. This tiny quarter, struck in 2017 with the humble Mint mark of Philadelphia, could fetch up to $1.4 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors began scouring their change, flipping over every quarter they touched. Dealers were overwhelmed with phone calls. people asking, "Do I have the $1 million Frederick coin?" Online forums lit up with blurry photos, hopeful finds, and stories of families racing to check their jars of coins hidden away in drawers. Why? Because this isn't just about metal. It's about history. It's about a man whose life was dedicated to freedom, immortalized on a coin that turned into a symbol of hidden fortune. And it's about you. Because right now, one of these miracle coins could be sitting in your pocket, unrecognized, waiting to change your life. But here's the catch most people miss: the 2017 Frederick Douglass quarter isn't rare by itself. Millions were struck. What makes it valuable, what makes it worth up to $1 million, is the mistake. The flaw. That tiny imperfection that separates an ordinary coin from a treasure that collectors will fight over. Some carry dramatic doubling on the words Frederick Douglass. Others reveal strange die clashes that make his desk appear ghosted, distorted, almost like a hidden image within the coin. And some of the rarest are struck slightly off-center, leaving blank space along the rim, a sign of a minting slip-up that should never have left the mint. Many of these error coins look almost ordinary to the naked eye. If you aren't paying attention, you'll miss it. But once you see it, you'll never forget it. One collector recalled his hands trembling as he spotted a doubled image on his quarter. He rushed to a dealer, who confirmed what he already knew: his spare change was suddenly worth more than his entire car. Another collector described the moment as electric, saying he could hardly breathe knowing he held a piece worth hundreds of thousands. Imagine pulling open that old coin jar in your kitchen. You sift through quarters, your heart racing as your fingers brush past them one by one. Then, something catches your eye. A doubling in the lettering. A faint crack across Douglass's desk. A slight misalignment that doesn't belong. Your pulse quickens. Could it be? Could you be holding the coin that turned spare change into $1.4 million? And here's where the story gets even more unbelievable: some experts believe more of these coins are still out there, undiscovered, waiting. They weren't all caught. They weren't all destroyed. Which means every time a 2017 Frederick Douglass quarter passes through your hand, there's a chance, however slim, that you could be holding a miracle. But here's the detail that separates dreamers from finders: you need to know exactly what to look for. 2017, look for the P mint mark, just beside Washington's portrait, that tells you it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin and study Frederick Douglass. Pay close attention to the details: the desk, the lettering, the edges of his portrait. Look for doubling, cracks, clashes, or misalignments. Even the smallest error could mean the difference between 25 cents and over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many people overlooked this coin. Dealers are still on edge, knowing at any moment another discovery could surface. And every day, ordinary Americans are unknowingly spending away quarters that could change their lives forever. So before you drop that 2017 Frederick Douglass quarter into a parking meter, before you let it vanish in a handful of change, take one last, careful look. Because history has proven that miracles hide in plain sight. This coin almost ended up in a pile of loose change at a gas station, but instead, it shocked the coin collecting world when one rare example surfaced at auction and was valued at nearly $1.5 million. Imagine holding a quarter in your hand, a coin so ordinary, so common, that most people wouldn't even glance at it twice. And yet, one tiny flaw, one hidden detail, transformed a simple 25-cent piece into a life-changing fortune. Collectors still whisper about it. The 2000 South Carolina quarter. A statehood series coin that was supposed to be just another everyday issue. But something went wrong at the Philadelphia Mint. Something that produced one of the rarest and most valuable modern quarters in American history. At first, nobody noticed. These coins were released in the millions. They clinked through vending machines, they were stacked in banks, they were shoved into piggy banks and coffee jars across the country. Ordinary. Forgettable. Disposable. But then, one coin emerged. A collector spotted something unusual. The color, the strike, the design didn't look like the others. And when the details came to light, the discovery sent shockwaves across the entire numismatic community, because this wasn't just a South Carolina quarter. This was a flawed masterpiece. A minting error so subtle, so rare, that it skyrocketed its value into the realm of million-dollar treasures. But what happened next stunned even the experts. The coin crossed the auction block, and dealers scrambled. Bids flew higher and higher, until the number seemed unthinkable for a coin minted in the year 2000. By the time the gavel struck, collectors were left speechless. This quarter, a coin that should have been worth just 25 cents, had been valued at over $1 million, and the story doesn't end there. Because experts now believe there are more out there. Hidden in plain sight. Sitting in change drawers, coin jars, even resting in dusty boxes in attics across America. That's right. This exact coin could be closer than you think, but here's the shocking part most people miss. The detail that transforms this ordinary South Carolina quarter into a $1 million miracle is almost invisible unless you know exactly where to look. Some of these error coins were struck on the wrong planchets. Others carry dramatic double strikes, off-center misalignments, or even bizarre die clashes. In some cases, the wrong design was paired with the South Carolina reverse, creating legendary minting blunders. Collectors were stunned to learn that a simple slip at the mint could turn pocket change into a small fortune. One man claimed he almost spent his error quarter at a laundromat before a coin dealer stopped him and offered thousands on the spot. But the truth is, not every dealer will tell you what you really have. Some errors slip by unnoticed, sold for face value, while others climb all the way into the millions, and this is where the story becomes even more unbelievable, because some South Carolina quarters have surfaced with details so strange, so out of place, that experts call them once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. A few show doubling in the inscriptions. Some have die cracks running across the palmetto tree. Others display faint but undeniable mismatched strikes. And every one of these errors adds zeros to the value. That came from a single coin struck on a rare experimental planchet, a blank metal disc never intended for mass circulation. Somehow, it slipped through the mint's strict quality controls. Somehow, it ended up in circulation. And somehow, one lucky collector found it, and what happened next left the entire coin world speechless. This error coin, authenticated and graded at the highest levels, achieved the unthinkable. It pushed its way past hundreds of thousands, and into the seven-figure range. That's right. A quarter worth over $1.5 million. Now imagine this. You're holding a handful of change. Quarters jingling in your palm. Among them, one coin looks just a little different. A shade off. A strike that seems slightly unusual. Do you toss it in a parking meter? Or, do you stop, look closer, and realize you might be holding a piece of history? Collectors are rushing to examine their state quarters. Dealers are scanning through rolls and rolls, desperate to uncover another hidden treasure. Because the truth is, the US Mint never intended for this coin to exist. And that makes it priceless, but here's the real secret. Most people don't know what to look for. So let me tell you exactly how to identify this legendary coin. First, check the mint mark. It must have the P struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2000. Next, inspect the coin carefully for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or misaligned dies. If the inscriptions appear shadowed, if the palmetto tree looks slightly distorted, if the design seems doubled, you may be staring at a rare mint error. Some of the $1 million versions were struck on experimental planchets. That means the coin may feel lighter, darker, or even sound different when tapped against a surface. Collectors say it takes a trained eye, but in truth, anyone can find one if they're willing to look closely enough. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old coin jar in your kitchen, when you dig through the change in your car's cup holder, stop and look. Because history has a funny way of hiding in plain sight, and remember, the 2000p South Carolina quarter has already changed one person's life. The next one could be sitting in your hand right now. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it changed someone's life forever. A 2003 Alabama state quarter, struck with the tiny D mint mark from Denver, once sold for a staggering $1.60 million. Think about that. A coin worth 25 cents, suddenly becoming a $1 million miracle. The answer lies in a mystery that shook the coin world to its core. Collectors still whisper about it. Dealers still chase after it. And right now, one of these coins could be hiding in your pocket change, but before we reveal the secret, you must understand the story. Because this is not just a coin, it's a legend. In 2003, the United States Mint released the Alabama quarter as part of its historic 50-state quarters program. On the front, the familiar face of George Washington. But on the back? A breathtaking tribute to Alabama's most famous daughter, Helen Keller, the first deafblind person to earn a college degree. It was the first U.S. coin to feature Braille lettering. Collectors were amazed. Americans were proud. But in Denver, something went wrong. Somewhere on the production floor, a handful of Alabama quarters were struck with tiny, almost invisible minting mistakes. And those flaws turned a pocket change coin into $1 million price point. One coin, in particular, shocked the entire world. A Denver minted Alabama quarter with a subtle die clash, a doubling on the Braille inscription, and an almost ghostly shift in the word Alabama. It slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed, until one day, a collector spotted it. He paid a few cents above face value for it at a local flea market. He didn't realize it then, but that humble quarter was destined to be worth $1.60 million. But what happened next stunned the coin world. When the coin finally surfaced at auction, dealers gasped. Phones rang off the hook. Collectors rushed to get in on the bidding. And as the hammer fell, that 25-cent piece rewrote history, selling for more than the price of a mansion. The story made headlines. Ordinary people checked their change jars, their couch cushions, even their laundry machines, hoping to find one of these mysterious Alabama quarters. And here's the part most people don't realize: it wasn't just one coin. Multiple error versions of the 2003 Alabama quarter exist, each with their own shocking value. Some show doubling on the Braille. Others display a faint die crack running across Helen Keller's portrait. And a few rare examples reveal a misaligned strike so dramatic, it looks as if the design is sliding off the coin itself. They are treasures worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there's one variation, one error, one coin, that towers above the rest. And that's the Alabama quarter that sold for $1.60 million. And here's the chilling part: experts believe there could still be more out there. Hiding. Waiting. Sitting silently in circulation, tucked inside a roll of quarters at the bank, or rattling around in your car's cup holder. Collectors were shocked when the news broke. Dealers called it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But some say the story isn't over yet, because history has proven time and time again, when one rare coin is discovered, more are sure to follow. Here's the secret every collector must learn. First, check for the mint mark. The $1 million examples all came from the Denver Mint. Look for the tiny D on the obverse, just right of Washington's ponytail. No D, no fortune. The Helen Keller design. Focus your eyes on the Braille dots. On rare double die varieties, the dots appear slightly blurred, shadowed, or thickened, almost as if they were struck twice. This doubling is one of the telltale signs of value. Now, look carefully at the inscriptions. The word Alabama should be crisp and clean. But on error coins, faint doubling, ghostly outlines, or even a wobble in the letters reveal the $1 million secret. Finally, inspect the edges. Some of the rarest examples show misalignments, extra thickness, or die cracks that stretch like lightning bolts across the rim. Collectors have paid thousands for minor errors like these. But in pristine condition, with the right combination of flaws, you could be holding a coin worth over $1 million. But what makes this story truly unforgettable is how close these treasures came to being lost forever. Think of it: countless rare quarters have slipped through unnoticed, spent at gas stations, dropped in parking lots, or scooped up by machines that never cared about history. One man's fortune could have ended up in a soda machine. Another woman's $1 million miracle could have been buried in a coin counting machine at the bank. That's why collectors call the Alabama quarter the hidden legend of the 50-state quarters program. Because unlike others, its secret value is invisible to most people. You have to look deeper. You have to know what you're searching for, and the truth is, most people miss it, but not you. Because now you know. Now you understand what makes the 2003 Alabama quarter more than just change. It's a treasure map in metal, and every time you touch a quarter from Alabama, you could be holding history in your hands. So check your change. Search your jars. Examine every roll of quarters you can find. Because lightning has struck once, and it could strike again. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it became the key to a fortune. In 2005, the U.S. Mint released a quarter to honor the rugged beauty of West Virginia. Most of them? Ordinary. Just 25 cents. But a select few carry a secret so rare, they've been valued at over $1.7 million. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. And yet, the truth is, this life-changing treasure could be hiding in your pocket change right now. But how did a simple quarter, a coin so common we hardly even notice it, become the kind of discovery that stuns even the most experienced collectors? It all begins with a tiny mistake at the Denver Mint. 2005 was a busy year. Millions of West Virginia quarters were struck with the D mint mark, flooding into circulation.
But during production, something went wrong.
A rare combination of misaligned dies, doubling in the design, and a flaw in the finish created one of the most sought-after state quarters in history.
Most people spent them without a second thought.
But a handful of sharp-eyed collectors spotted what others missed, and when the first of these error coins appeared at auction, the coin world went silent. But what happened next stunned the entire hobby of the hammerfell at nearly $2 million. For a quarter, 25 cents turned into $1 million miracle. The news spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was checking their pocket change. People who never cared about coins before were searching through jars, coffee cans, and forgotten drawers. Because the idea was almost too wild to believe that a coin worth face value could instantly change your life, collectors were shocked. Dealers were desperate.
And ordinary people began to wonder, could I be holding one right now?
But here's where the story gets even more incredible. Some of these error quarters were discovered not by expert numismatists, but by everyday people. A man in Ohio noticed something odd about the lettering on his quarter.
He thought it looked a little blurry.
That tiny detail, what most people would brush off as nothing, turned out to be doubling from a minting error.
His coin?
Valued at over $1 million. One woman in Texas found another while paying for groceries. She almost gave it to the cashier.
At the last second, something about the coin shine caught her eye.
That glimmer saved her from spending away what would later be appraised at over $1.5 million. It comes down to rarity. The Denver Mint struck millions of ordinary 2005 quarters, but only a microscopic fraction carried this exact error. Experts estimate fewer than a dozen exist in pristine, uncirculated condition.
And when you mix extreme rarity with a design that already captures the American imagination, the new River Gorge Bridge soaring high above the mountains, you have the perfect storm for $1 million collectible. This is why dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Why collectors speak of them in hushed tones. And why every day, somewhere in America, someone is flipping through their change, praying to find that one extraordinary coin. But here's the part most people missed out. It's not enough to simply have a 2005 West Virginia quarter with a D mint mark. You have to look closer. Much closer. On the rare error versions, the details of the bridge may appear doubled or slightly shadowed. The letters in West Virginia can look blurred, almost as if the coinmaker's hand trembled. And under magnification, the surface may show a distinctive strike-through, marks left when debris accidentally interfered during minting. That's what makes the difference between a 25-cent coin and $1 million treasure. And here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night: most of these error coins have not been found. They're still out there, hiding in circulation,
sitting in jars, tucked in wallets, maybe even resting in a child's piggy bank. Think about that. Somewhere, right now, an unsuspecting person might have $1.7 million just sitting in a drawer. The coin world knows this. That's why stories continue to surface of surprise discoveries. Every year, another lucky collector comes forward with a jaw-dropping find. And every time, the market reacts with shock and frenzy, driving the value higher. The first step is patience. Take the time to inspect every quarter you come across. A magnifying glass is your best friend. Look closely at the lettering. Do you see any doubling, any distortion, any blur? Check the bridge. Are the lines sharp, or do they seem shadowed? Examine the fields, the flat background, for unusual textures, marks, or depressions. Next, know your mint marks. The Denver minted quarters bear a small D on the front, near George Washington's profile. If you have a 2005 quarter without that D, it's not the $1 million candidate. And finally, condition matters. A well-worn coin might still be worth thousands, but the pristine examples, the ones pulled early from circulation, are the true $1 million miracles. This is the thrill of coin hunting. The reason collectors search late into the night, guided by nothing but hope, curiosity, and the dream of discovery, because in the world of numismatics, one small detail can rewrite your destiny. And this is why the 2005 D Mint Mark West Virginia quarter has become a legend. It's not just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility. Proof that even the most ordinary object in your pocket could hide a secret beyond imagination. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That little quarter could hold the power to shock the coin world, rewrite your financial future, and turn your life upside down, because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, worth over $1 million.